Today's fairy tale is a dark and tragic but beautiful Lithuanian story called Eglė, the Queen of the Serpents, or Eglė and the Grass Snakes. A man and a woman have 12 sons and 3 daughters, and the youngest of the daughters is Eglė. And one day she and her 2 other sisters are out bathing in a pond. And when they get out and she puts her blouse back on, there's a snake in her sleeve. The snake's like, "Give me your word that you will marry me and I'll let you go peacefully." And she's like, "Ew, no, I don't want to." But he won't let go or go away. So one of her sisters says, "Just say yes. He's a snake. He can't make you do anything." So she says yes just to get him to go away. She and her sisters go home. Well, he can do something. 3 days go by and then she's home with her family when a throng of serpents come wriggling up to the house. They coil up the porch posts and barge into the house, and they're like, "Hey, we want the bride that we were promised for our king." They're like, "Okay, hold on a minute." And they go to a neighbor for advice, and the neighbor's like, "Oh, they're just snakes. They gotta be dumb. Just give them a goose dressed up in your daughter's clothes and send that with them." So they do that, and it does trick the snakes at first until they're on their way with the goose, and this total narc cuckoo in a tree is like, "That's not her, that's a goose." So they go back angrily. They try again with a sheep, then they try again with a cow, but eventually Eglė's like, "I will just go, it's okay." So they take Eglė to the sea, and there a hot human man is standing there, and that is the serpent who crawled in her blouse. He can turn into a man. They cross the sea to a nearby island where they go underground below sea level, where there's a beautiful castle, and she could have anything she could ever hope for. Years go by, and as often happens in these stories where women are taken by magical men to different realms, she eventually forgets her family, and she gives birth to 3 sons and a daughter. Eglė in Lithuanian means fir tree or spruce tree, and she names her children the same way. She names them the words for oak, ash, and birch. That's the 3 sons, and then the daughter is aspen. It's kind of funny we still do those names today. I have had students named literally all 4 of those. One day, one of her children asks her, "Hey, where are your parents? Where's your family from?" And suddenly she remembers everything, and she wants to go see her family and see if they're still alive and how they're doing. So she goes to her husband and says, "Can I please go?" He says, "Okay, but first spin this tuft of silk into thread." And so she gets to work on it, but it's like never ending and it's not working. So she goes to a sea sorceress. Sorceress is like, "Girl, that is enchanted silk. Throw it into the fire." And when she does that, she's able to see that it was this endless silk being spun by a toad. So she gets rid of the toad, and then she's able to actually spin it before he gets home. Well, when he gets home, he gives her these iron shoes and says, "You can go when you've worn these out." So again, she doesn't know how she's going to do this. Goes back to the sorceress, and the sorceress says, "Take them to a blacksmith and have him heat them up, and then it'll be easy to wear them down." And so that's what she does. Although I imagine like wearing them would hurt a lot. The last task is to bake a cake to take her family, but she's not allowed to use any kitchen utensils. The sorceress tells her to spread sourdough on a sieve and then use the sieve to fetch water and mix the dough, and she's able to do it that way. So he says, "Okay, you can go visit your family and take our kids, but when you're ready to come back, say my name, Gilvinus, dear Gilvinus. If you're alive, milky foam. If you're not, bloody foam. And if I'm alive, white foam will come up and then I'll come get you. But if I'm dead, it's just going to be red bloody foam." But he also says you can't tell anyone else how to call me. And she knows and the children know, so he swears them all to silence. She brings the children to her family. Her family's so happy to see her, so happy to see the kids, but they're all like not wanting to let her go back. They know there's some secret to calling her husband because they just want to kill him. They think that's the best way. I mean, otherwise he'll send the horde of snakes again. Her brothers literally take her sons one by one out into the woods and beat them with switches to try and get them to tell them how to call the husband, but none of them will talk. But finally, the daughter, who's the youngest, does talk and tells them how to do it. So they go to the edge of the sea carrying scythes. They call his name, and when he comes up, they chop him into pieces with their scythes. They come back home, do not tell our girl what they did, and when it's time for her to go back with her children, she calls out the chant, and of course only bloody foam comes to the surface. Overcome with sorrow, Eglė began to cry, turned to her children and said, "Who will meet us now in this dark night? We have no home, we have no home." Because yeah, she was pretty much forced to go marry this man and have his children, and there's conversations to be said about that. But Stockholm Syndrome or not, now she wants to be with him, and she doesn't want to be with her family who lied to her and murdered her man, so she feels she and her children have nowhere to go. She transforms her sons into strong trees, the oak, the ash, and the birch, finally turns her daughter into a quaking aspen, and then turns herself into a spruce. And they can live together in the forest as trees, and that will be their new home. As always, check out my book, Retelling of a Fairy Tale, Dust Spells, and my podcast. All the links are in the bio.